morning. I am so excited you are online. It makes the commute a little shorter. My name is Andrea. I am joining you today from St. Paul. I'm new to presenting at 1 Million Cups. So a few years ago, I was in Kansas City, and I was at that building in your video. So when I started this, I thought of 1 Million Cups. So I am excited to be here, and I'm very thankful that you are willing to let me present. I was a teacher, a high school math teacher, and a lot of times students were looking for relevance, as you can imagine, and it would come out as the question, when am I going to use this math, or why do we have to learn this? And in the classroom, we are focused a lot on the lower level knowledge, the basic foundational skills, which are important, and there wasn't the time to actually answer that authentically in a personalized way, which is why I came up with Math Tracks, which is developing curious, capable, confident problem solvers. I like to think of us as being intellectual tour guides of sorts. And so the reason we're focusing on problems is not only the relevance, but also the challenge of problem solving is pervasive. So this is the 2000 NAEP scores for 8th grade math students in Minnesota, and you can see across all the subpopulations, no one got to advanced. So as a state, we're leading the country, but we still have a lot of room to grow. And internationally, the US is at the bottom of that list. It's not even in the top 10 when it comes to advanced problem solving, which is why for Math Tracks, it is an online enrichment company that specializes in solving meaningful, complex math problems. It's a pretty simple approach. The students share their interest in a topic, be it music or history, whatever they like, and where they are in math, what they need to, what they know already that they've learned in their math class, and then we create a personalized multimedia problem that takes 20-25 minutes to solve, and we do that together in an online learning space. So in 30 minutes, they have tackled a problem that's meaningful to them and developed better problem solving skills. Our focus is on the higher level learning, those in the ed space. You can think of the top of Bloom's taxonomy. So if you think about school or other forms of tutoring, they focus on the foundation. And then when you come to Math Tracks, it's for that higher level transfer stage of the process. And it is a pretty simple business model, just like a tutoring model. The student pays us, and then we provide a 30-minute service. And I am here today looking for ideas. Ideas because we're at the beginning of the process, and thinking about the relevance question, there are a lot of ways that students make math relevant to them. And one of them is location and concrete examples near them. For example, when I think in that discussion you just had about the new Hy-Vee, that actually is a really great math problem to think about how they are going to organize the space, the layout, and to make it profitable relative to their other businesses. That's a very concrete model that would have meaning for some students. So I'm here today to brainstorm ideas that might be fascinating to students, something that the city is solving right now. So that's my big ask is just ideas. And the second ask is advice on a target market. I originally entered into this thinking it was going to be focused on the people who are doing out of school tutoring. And then as I talked to more people, they suggested looking at the homeschool market. I'm open to ideas, so I'd love to discuss that. And then the smaller ask, just spread the word. If you know anyone who's interested, I'd love to do some pilots, and then I'll follow us on Twitter. And that's it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Hopefully
Thank
that
you.
was pretty quick.
That's great. So everybody, one of the things I was a little unclear of is the model that you're using right now is are you delivering this, you're delivering this currently online,
Yes.
Are you offering this as a package to schools? Are you offering it as how are you offering it? Is it a website?
That is a good question. So I am offering it as sort of like a haircut or a tutoring service. So you can buy a 30-minute session one at a time. I haven't gone into packages yet, and I haven't broached the school sector because that's a whole different type of sales, and I haven't figured out the sales process yet.
Yeah.
So that's a conversation I would love to learn more about, because I have thought about the special ed element of the institutional K-12 system. Um, so I've shied away from that, but I would love to consider it. And the way it works is the purchase process and the sales process happens on a WordPress site that I made, mattrucks.com. And then there's a virtual learning environment similar to what you like Zoom, or if you're in the higher ed space, like the virtual whiteboard classrooms. It's similar to that. It's through a provider called BrainCert. So when once they start the process on MathTrex, the website, it goes to email, and then they get a link similar to like a Zoom link to the classroom.
Hmm.
And then after the session, they're emailed a file with the video and the feedback. So everything happens on email.
That's really
And
cool.
and that's something else I would be fascinated if you guys have opinions on that, because I found that process to be more streamlined, but I could see some people have asked, why haven't you done a full-blown learning management system like what you would experience in a higher ed institution? And I just thought that that was more cumbersome
Mhm.
for the product.
Well, I have a couple of people with raised hands. Gary, why don't you go ahead?
Hey, hey, thanks. Very interesting. Andrea is a former high school math teacher here, so I can identify and had learned over time and handle that question not very well, I do admit, of say, hey, why do I need to know trig, or why do I need to know this? And not saying, well, to get to the next level class, you need to know that. Well, that's not a very good answer, right? So I think you're on spot on in trying to put things in context where they can identify that. And I'm not up to speed on what the current math prep in the college curriculum is, but and so maybe it's much better than what I got back in the day, I would hope. But it would seem like somehow getting teachers involved at the front end through their math preparation in college, somehow knowing about this tool, and also clicking on just the overall approach of putting things in context so the problems and identify, make it connect for the student has great value. So I don't know, it would be interesting to have some sort of conversation with some math people at the university level to say, how could this be integrated in some way? I don't know what that way is, but in terms of target marketing, try to, get up the food chain at the level when the teachers are somehow integrating this in, if that's possible, have them aware of it, if nothing else, that they can recommend to their students as an avenue for those people, for students to be more successful in math. And everybody should be after the same goal of raise their students' performance in math, as your chart shows, is very disappointing. So I think thinking of a strategy, and you as a former math teacher, think about your math education, preparing as a teacher, maybe there's some opportunity to get in the ground floor there. And then it seems like in our current environment with doing a lot of online learning, this would be something that's really enticing, obviously, right now to have kids at home be able to be more successful and still work on and develop their math skills.
Thank you. That's a good idea. Yes, will do. Yeah, thank you. I think the one thing was, I need to think about that with reaching out to teachers, because I don't know about the recommendation. Like I've had students ask me a couple times, like, do you know of a good tutor? And if I knew somebody personally, I'd say I know of them, or I've heard of Mathnasium or something. But it always ethically, I don't know, I struggled with that, but I don't know if that was just me personally. So I need to have more conversations to find out about how teachers feel. I think that's a good idea. Definitely.
As an instructor myself, I think if you know of a good tool that's going to actually help your student,
Yeah.
I don't see where there'd be a problem with recommending a tool that you think is going to help that particular student, as long as there's not a quid pro quo payment or you're not making any money off of it. You know, if there's a good tool out there and it can help a student, why wouldn't you recommend it? You know. Next person, Ryan.
Yeah, so based on the chart you were showing where you're, showing that in Minnesota, most students are, near or at that proficiency level, but didn't hit that advanced level. I was curious as to what your target audience is for students. Are you looking for proficient students who want to become advanced, or are you looking at those who are below proficient and helping them get to proficiency, or both?
That is a good question. So I imagine it being something that would appeal to all levels of students. I think the target student is the one who's looking for relevance, who's just disconnected from their math class. And I imagine the family's just like pulling their hair going, I just want you to want to do this as a, I think with the higher level students, a lot of them might already be independent enough that they might not need the service is my guess, like the highest level 1% in terms of proficiency. I don't know how to market that. So that's a really good question. I don't know how to market, because I think everybody could benefit. It just depends where they are. So for example, I had this one student that I'm working with to develop a problem, and he's really interested in architecture. And so we're thinking about right now rearranging space he's also interested in corporate culture. So we're thinking about rearranging corporate office space for the COVID era. He's at a high enough level that it's me coaching him to develop the problem that I would help another student solve. That's a good question. Thank you. I need to hone that in. Yes. Okay. Type of student, level of student.
Well, there is some research too, and I think going back to what Gary was suggesting, talking to some of the math professors at the university who teach math teachers might be interesting, because they could point you to some of the research about experiential learning and who it benefits most and that sort of thing. Would be kind of cool. Oh boy, we got a bunch of questions that are coming in here. That's awesome. And comments. I'm going to go back to Julie. You said you had something in chat, so why don't you go ahead?
I had a similar question as Ryan, but Andrea, I think you answered it a little bit. So when I was first listening to your presentation, my first thought was that you were looking for probably high-level students and wanting to identify those age ranges and also what that direction might be, either for the student or maybe the parent of a student wanting to have like that higher learning experience in math. But then you state that actually it's maybe even more so those students that are just struggling with liking math, right? Like they just hate it because they're not interested, not necessarily like they don't get it, but you want to make it fun. I guess personally, as somebody in marketing, I would define those targets, even if it's both of them. You can absolutely have different profiles of target markets. You just need to know how to speak to each one. So I would definitely look at targeting them differently and what might benefit them individually, if that makes sense. So obviously you're marketing that's going towards the parent who just doesn't know how to incite enthusiasm in their child about math, will be a completely different marketing strategy than the junior or senior in high school who is looking to go into engineering and wants to be challenged and wants to be at that higher level, that kind of thing. So.
Okay, that's good to know. I'm not a marketer, so I am like self-teaching myself right now. So the idea of having multiple personas is reassuring to hear.
For sure. And the other input I would give is you said that you were kind of pricing them like one-offs. And I guess I personally would at least do a small program just because I feel like, especially the lower in age you go, one visit is just kind of meh. You know, for kids, it's a whole different story than it is for, like, say me. Say you were a business coach and we met once, that could be super insightful. But if I'm thinking like lower grade level, that one kind of 30-minute session might not really impact me at that young of an age. Whereas even like 6 weeks, once a week or something, just like a pack of a few, if you're trying to keep things more cost effective and not so overwhelming, still that package I feel like would have more impact and make more sense from a parent's perspective. That's just me with my small children thinking about that. So
That's good to know. So with pricing right now, I thought just having it one off would be appealing because people wouldn't feel like it was a big commitment. And then if they liked it, then I was going to hit them with like that, hey, here's a discounted package. But maybe having it all available so they could see in advance is good. The
even
other
having something that highlights what you do and then offer just the packages, even as a business, might be better will be better for you. Because people will just, I don't know, get busy. You know what I mean? They get interested in other things. And if they have this package, they'll use it. But if they try it once, even if they want it, they might be like, oh, I got busy. And, you know, it's kind of like going to the gym, right? We pay a gym membership and it's like, yeah, I'm really into this for the first 2 weeks. And then I got other things to do. And, you know, that kind of thing. So.
That's very true. Thank you.
You could even use that first one-off as a bit of a leader, you know, to bring people in at a lower cost, lower that risk of that first try.
Yeah.
And then, you know, also, you know, have the package available that they can say, well, there's a package, but I can get this one-time thing for a lower price. I can try it out. Make sure that my kid likes it. Make sure I like it. See how streamlined it is, you know.
Yeah.
Kate has a couple of comments, so I'll turn to her next.
Okay, I got a couple of thoughts. They weren't really questions. And I'll just piggyback off of what Yvonne just said too. Another thought would be with the packages to offer, you know, a 6-week package at this rate. You can cancel at any time, you know, make it feel less threatening. So if you're signing up for this package, it's not any more scary than signing up for a one-off. And then, yeah, like Julie said, with people get busy and all of that kind of stuff, they're more likely to keep going than they are to sign up again. So, okay, so then my other question, or my other thoughts, you mentioned homeschoolers and special ed as possible markets for you. I also threw out there maybe alternative schools. My husband is a principal at an alternative school, and those students need different approaches in order to keep them engaged. They have a lot more going on at home that affects whether or not they care about school. And so something like this really help keep them engaged. In a charter school or alternative schools are more flexible on what kinds of outside things they can do because they're trying to reach these kids and keep them engaged in school. So that might be a market for you. And then my other thought was that a lot of school districts have systems that flyers are sent home, whether it's paper or when they're little, I think it's paper mostly when we go to school. And as they get older, it's like this newsletter thing where there's PDF flyers in the newsletter. And it is community organizations. I get things for volleyball and all kinds of things for my kids. So reaching out to school districts I know they have to pay. You have to pay to be in those newsletters, but it's something to look into.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
It's really good. Mike Hahn had some suggestions for you along your scenario question.
You're collectively so helpful. Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
what Online Cups is all about. It's great.
just some ideas that I put in there. You know, grocery stores provide lots of great math examples. And I know that many of them are community oriented. So, you know, the management team or their side department managers will work with you on such things as far as, you know, what do they use for recipes, weights, you know, how do they measure such things by cups? You know, what is it that they do to put ready to made products together? They also do such things for my ordering as far as pieces, pallets, tonnage. And one of the things that which really bothers me is at least they still do it. They're supposed to be doing it. Is my old employer, Hy-Vee, is work with employees to count change correctly. And those are types of things that you can do as well. Cities also have all sorts of examples, traffic counts. You know, some people don't find them fascinating, but water treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants, you got gallons, you got liters, you got all sorts of things that flow through those. So there's all sorts of things, you know, garbage. You can take a look as far as refuge. You can look at recycling. And usually cities through the League of Municipalities have some type of math tutoring curriculum that's already developed. So those are things that you might want to look into.
That's awesome. If I could just push you for a second, I don't
Sure.
know Mankato well enough. Is there a topic that is being discussed right now in the city that is like a lively topic? For example, in St. Paul, it's in the cities, you know, policing would be a hot topic. Is there one in Mankato?
Well, I would probably defer that to Ryan since he's an actual resident. I work in Mankato, but I live up in St. Peter. But Ryan, do you have anything that you could add to that?
You know, the biggest things that I would call lively topics in Mankato is downtown development. We've had we currently have 2 multi-story buildings going up in downtown Mankato, and then redesigning roads. We've got a lot of roads in town that, you know, were designed when our city was one size, and we are now about twice as big. So Riverfront Drive being the main one. And I actually shot you an email with the Riverfront Drive corridor study. That might be a good starting point for some plans.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's a really good one.
And
So
I'm
much
totally
great
serious
feedback.
And I'm totally
What happened-
serious about water treatment plants. They are amazing. And when you get
Yeah.
students inside those, they'll blow their mind out. They're just great things.
I was thinking as you guys were all talking about pathways, right? And how kids are being directed to think about career pathways. If your stuff tied into career pathways, it might be a way to draw people, you know, draw them into their math through the thing that they're already interested in, or draw them into a career pathway like water treatment plants and engineering and stuff that they wouldn't have thought of. That's cool. Let's see, we've got a couple of so many great comments. This is awesome. Nikolai has a comment. Nikolai, if you'd like to unmute, you can go ahead and do that.
All right, so since your company specializes in making math learning relate to a customer's interests, do you think that your program could also help a student develop or obtain the necessary skills for a future career pathway that they may be interested in one day?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I didn't want to go into the weeds because once I start talking, people say I do. It's meant to be interdisciplinary by nature. And the idea is that it's revealed preferences over time. So my hope is that if students decide to come maybe once a month and they really like it, and I hook them when they're in 9th grade and they start to explore, say, hot sauce, then over time, by the time they are in 12th grade, they not only are much better at complex math, but they know a lot more about hot sauce and that's what they really love. So then when they are choosing post-high school plans, whether that is college or a career right away, they feel really confident about their knowledge of that topic that they can make a deep commitment to solving whatever problem that is. Yes, I absolutely, I hope so. Yeah, that's the hope.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think career pathways, like you had mentioned, the two, both of you, career pathways is a really good thing to consider for marketing. Yeah, explicitly laying out the alignment and how that helps.
Gary had a great suggestion about a math scenario too. I thought that was really neat. Can I tell her about that, Gary? She might not know about
Yeah,
that.
on market research, again, you having been a former math teacher, I would look at, maybe if you haven't done already, getting some math teachers together, high school, elementary, middle school, and get their ideas, just kind of like what you're doing here. One, educate them about the tool, but see how it might be integrated into, they all should be in on how can they raise the level of math students. And so they may have some good advice of how to connect students to, reasonably. And again, as Yvonne said, it's not like you're giving them a kickback, like a, pharmaceutical salesperson that, hey, push this and we're going to, give you some perks. If you haven't done that, that might be worthwhile. If nothing else, they may then get educated and say, hey, I have some students, whatever levels you described, which I think is correct, as Julie gave you advice, just don't focus on one, but have different personas. So I thought that might be a way to go. And then I noted a possible math problem. Mankato recently had an artist paint some big grain silos with a mural, really impressive. And so looking into that, there might be some things as how this artist figured how much paint the surface on the cylindrical area of, and just some of the details there, even from the standpoint windage of knowing when is it safe to go from the scaffolding to paint, and knowing wind conditions and so forth. There may be something there, talking to some of those people who are really involved, that could be some problems just to understand, and for someone who have artistic interest could really pique their interest because of the final result and what this gentleman did.
Thank you. I think I saw a picture of it when I was researching Mankato for today. It looked amazing. Yes, I have the same question. How did you do that? So that's a great one. Thank you.
That was terrific. We need to start wrapping up. I think Sarah had one more comment. And Sarah, if you wouldn't mind, after your comment, if you would also ask our 1 Million Cups famous question to wrap things up.
Sure. So my comment was just, my father-in-law has 2 kids in middle school, and he is dying to send his kids to a private school if public school doesn't open, simply because he can't deal with teaching them math. So I don't know if you've ever thought of even just, I know somebody mentioned, reaching out, doing those flyers. Kate said, I think that's a great idea. I think if the right parents know, it's going to spread like wildfire. So if there's any schools anywhere near, I mean, he's in South Dakota, but even schools that are opening or fully reopening, it might be a good idea to target those. Just kind of a suggestion. And then our question for you is, what can we as a community do for you?
We already have done so much. That suggestion was great. And all of your ideas, I have 2 pages of notes. So I feel like you've already done that. You've been awesome. So thank you.